In a time when information is everywhere, knowing what to trust is harder than ever. Librarians and professors say more and more students enter college without the skills needed to recognize reliable sources or even where to look for them.
Students aren't generally taught that in high school. So coming into college and like having this expectation of quality sources is very like nebulous. It's not really clearly defined.
To start that conversation, O'Donnell hosted a screening of the documentary Trust Me. She says the film was chosen because other universities recommended it, and it was available through the library streaming service.
I wanted to find a documentary that was recommended by like other libraries who were doing like information literacy, like series of events type things, and so that was something that came up quite frequently, and it was like promoted because it received like a bunch of awards and things.
The documentary highlighted strategies like vetting sources and lateral analysis, which O'Donnell says are essential skills for today's students. But she admits some parts of the film, including certain images, were sensationalized, making it less authentic for some viewers.
I think there were some useful insights in the documentary about like vetting your sources and using like lateral analysis to make sure that like an article that you're looking at is appropriately sourced. So I thought that was effective, but I do think that some of the imagery was a little sensationalized. I think was a word that came up a lot when like students and the professors were talking about it at the end. So I think that could have been kind of um, what is the word I'm looking for? Kind of like a deterrent of it being like a super effective, like educational video, I guess. Yeah.
O'Donnell says the real challenge is that many students can't tell a scholarly source from an unreliable one, not because they don't care, but because they've never been taught how.
So you'll see students who will cite like a BuzzFeed article or something that maybe isn't like the most reputable source in like a research project. And they have no means of knowing that that isn't going to be a reputable source, but it's just kind of important to give them the tools to like figure out, okay, like this was written by this person and this person is being paid by this organization.
O'Donnell isn't the only one who sees the effects of misinformation up close. Communication professor Jennifer Babcock says the problem of what's real and what isn't appears before students ever reach sources that are false.
Even when students are looking at real information, they don't necessarily understand what is fact and what is opinion. And that problem is sort of the lead off to making it even more complicated to identify misinformation and disinformation.
Babcock says that uncertainty, confusing clear reporting with personal opinion, creates a gap that disinformation can easily fill. She's taught at Bridgewater for more than a decade and says the rise of social media has completely changed how students discover information.
A lot of young people do not look at news sites. They are getting their news from social media sources like TikTok, where it's very hard to tell the difference between somebody who is authoritative and somebody who is just, saying what their opinion is.
As AI generates more realistic fake content, identifying truth online is becoming even more complicated. Babcock says colleges need to move fast, and Bridgewater has already started.
Well, I think one of the ways Bridgewater College does it is requiring everybody to take either FILA or CL introductory class, and those classes usually talk about how to do good research, how to find good sources. That's the beginning.
Babcock and O'Donnell both say media literacy can't just be for research papers, it has to be a life skill. As today's students graduate into a world of algorithms, filter bubbles, and AI-generated headlines, the higher education system is still catching up.
It comes down to, are you thinking critically? And can you sort of look at things in a nuanced way? And if you can't do that with misinformation and disinformation, then it's going to be harder for you to do it in your workplace.
Bridgewater College says this is just the first step. The Library and Communication Studies Department are planning more events in in-class teaching on source evaluation, hoping to give students the tools to separate fact from fiction in a digital age.